That's like saying, should we talk about Islam to non-Muslims? Of course we need Guidance TV. We need to tell the people about our religion, and we tell them the way and the means that they are most familiar with. So we need to utilize every single thing that we can through the internet, through our television stations, through satellite television to spread this message of Islam. Bottom line, yes, we need Guidance TV.
Do we need Guidance TV?
Alhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Do we need Guidance TV? That's like saying, do we need to give da'wah? That's like saying, should we talk about Islam to non-Muslims? Of course we need Guidance TV. We need to tell the people about our religion, and we tell them the way and the means that they are most familiar with. So we need to utilize every single thing that we can through the internet, through our television stations, through satellite television to spread this message of Islam. Bottom line, yes, we need Guidance TV.
Do we need Guidance TV?
Alhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Do we need Guidance TV? That's like saying, do we need to give da'wah? That's like saying, should we talk about Islam to non-Muslims? Of course we need Guidance TV. We need to tell the people about our religion, and we tell them the way and the means that they are most familiar with. So we need to utilize every single thing that we can through the internet, through our television stations, through satellite television to spread this message of Islam. Bottom line, yes, we need Guidance TV.
Do we need Guidance TV?
Alhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Do we need Guidance TV? That's like saying, do we need to give da'wah? That's like saying, should we talk about Islam to non-Muslims? Of course we need Guidance TV. We need to tell the people about our religion, and we tell them the way and the means that they are most familiar with. So we need to utilize every single thing that we can through the internet, through our television stations, through satellite television to spread this message of Islam. Bottom line, yes, we need Guidance TV.
Do we need Guidance
One.
TV?
In Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Huwalladhi Jalal Muslimin. We're coming to you live right now, all the way from New Jersey. We're in New Jersey, not the old Jersey, the new one. Everybody knows that, right? So what's the name of the town we're in right here?
Piscataway. Piscataway.
Be careful how you say that. We're on television. Yeah, it's Piscataway. Alhamdulillah, we're actually having a great time with all of my friends, my old friends that I've had here for so many years, and my new friends that I'm meeting tonight, and everybody in between. We're having a great time, and we've been talking about the idea of what's called in Arabic manadhara. Who knows what's manadhara? You know what's manadhara? What does it mean, brother? Debate. Yeah, we've been talking about debates. Now, in my understanding, when I took this in school, when I was in high school, we had a debate in our drama class. We had debates. And I really liked it. It was a lot of fun because they give you a topic, random topic, and then you got to take one side, and then your opponent takes the other side. And I always won. So I really liked it. Whenever we're going to have debates, we're going to have the drama class, I would get so excited because I just couldn't wait to get in there and pontificate ad infinitum. You like that? Yes, I was a pontificator. And I enjoyed so much the ability to take a challenge at random and just go after it. But because I had studied so many different subjects, and my mother was a school teacher, so she practiced on me all summer long, if you know what I mean. And it was a natural for me, plus the fact that I was very intimidating. And when I would do it, I would be like, wah, 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 like, you know. So the opponent would be, sometimes it's a little girl, and she's like, whoa, you know. But as I got older, I realized that if you continue that, you wind up, you win. You win those debates, but you lose a lot of friends. In fact, you could even lose some of your family members from that kind of thing. So when it comes to this topic, when we're talking about faith, we're talking about religion, we're talking about how people cooperate culturally and linguistically with each other, I find that it's a lot better to ask questions than to make statements, and allow other people the opportunity to express themselves, to talk about whatever the subject is from their point of view. And above all, and this, I'm still working on this. I'm only 75 years old, okay? But I'm still working on it now, is to let somebody finish talking before I say anything. That's not easy, is it? Especially if you're convinced that they're saying the wrong thing. You just want to interrupt them and say, whoa, 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 where'd you get that from, right? Or I already know something, But I find that if I can be quiet and listen to somebody bring their side of a subject, bring their side, and discuss it until they feel like, and when I see them go, say, are you done? Now let's examine it. And then I ask them questions about what did they say. Now, let's take, for instance, someone who is an atheist. Okay, somebody walks up to you and you're talking with them, and and because of the kufi or because of your long dress or whatever, they might say, are you a Amish or a Mormon or what are you? You know, okay, I'm a Muslim. Oh, you're one of them? And we've all had an experience like that, you know. Even sometimes they say, go back to your country, boy. Say, well, I'm from Texas. Where do you want me to go? But seriously, whenever you engage in a subject, it's important to let them speak. So I ask them, well, what faith are you? I'm an atheist. I don't need no religion. I don't believe in no God. Okay. So are you saying that everything just came by an accident, just popped up out of nothing? Huh? So we open up a subject. Where did everything come from? Now, if I ask him, where did everything come from, and he starts talking, it means I need to be quiet. Is that fair or not? Because if you ask a question and somebody's trying to answer it and you cut him off, it's very obvious that you become like the journalist for the fake news. You ever seen them? They say, well, how come blah, blah, blah? And then you try to answer it, blah, 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 and they interrupt you and they keep going because they've got an agenda. But if he says, well, everything came about by a big bang. Okay. And then how did that big bang become whatever we know today? Well, over millions of years. That's one of the things. Billions of years. Jillions of years. I don't even know if Jillion is a legitimate, is that a number? No. So many, huh? Way beyond our comprehension. So that is one thing that people will talk about, is time in a way that we can't fathom it. We cannot get to the bottom of it because we don't even know what it is. The other thing that people like to talk about when they're going into this subject is distances, talking about how far a star is away from, a star is so many, how do they measure it? They don't measure it in inches, that's for sure. They don't measure it in yards, no. They don't measure it in rods. They don't measure it in miles. They don't measure it in telephone poles. Hey, don't tell people how I know how it's. Anyway, so what they do, they measure it and they're telling us light years. The distance that light will travel in a year. Some people don't even have the concept of light traveling. I turn the light on, it's just there instantly, isn't it? Well, actually, it seems like in an instant, but it takes time for that light that's right there. Look up at that light right there. See it? You know what that light looks like? Look at it. Right? You know what it looks like? That light right there? Looks like that one right over there. Now, don't you feel educated? Well, sometimes some of the things that we say make about as much sense as that does. So it's important to let the person speak. And he's telling you that so many light years away is a planet or a star or something. And he's telling you so many million years ago this happened or that happened. So tell me, how did it come that there was life? Okay, because I can get this idea about rocks floating around. I don't know how they managed to wind up being these perfect round balls and going in circles and doing all, but let's leave that alone for a minute. I just want to know, how did life come out of that? How does living, breathing creatures come out of what you just said? Something blowing up. I mean, excuse me for mentioning something here, but, we're Muslims. And if anybody's an expert on blowing anything up, it should be us. That's right? You're talking about a big explosion. And we do know something about that, because in almost every single Muslim country, there are explosions on a regular basis. People blowing up stuff. And that's true, isn't it? But what does it look like after those bombs go off? After something gets blown up, is it very beautiful and nice and everything is well organized? No, quite the contrary. It's chaos, it's fitna, it's the worst possible condition you can imagine. It's fragmented pieces of rock and stone and blood and bone. It's horrible. There's nothing beautiful about it. And yet you look at the universe at night. Some guys like to take their lady out at night, take their wife out, maybe, and look at the moon, look at the stars. And how beautiful is that? So beautiful. And I don't remember anybody say, let's drive down to the bomb site and say, wow, look at that beautiful place over there with all those people hanging out there. No, I'm sorry, that doesn't work. So let's back up. I'm asking you, where did life come from? Can you tell me? Now there's a theory, and I'd like to listen to the theory. Bring it. The theory is that the earth was covered with water. And after so many billion years, that water formed a blue-green algae. How many of you heard about the blue-green algae? Did you hear about that? The whole earth was covered with a blue-green algae. Now, again, millions and millions of years, and that blue-green algae somehow produced out of it amoeboid. These are little teeny tiny guys that you can only see underneath a microscope. And those amoeboid were starting to eat that blue-green algae. Okay, time out. Can I ask a question? Yeah. The blue-green algae produced those little things so that it could eat them? Does that make the amoeboids, aren't they cannibals if they came from that? Or how does that work? I'm sorry, I don't get that. The other thing I want to ask you about, now, you said this is where that kind of life came from. So then what happened? Well, then some bigger amoeboids came along and ate the smaller ones. Again, sounds like cannibalism to me. And then some bigger ones, and some of them became fish, and some of them became birds, and whoa, wait a minute. Okay, back up. How did the ones in the water, that I'm going along with you even to the fish and everything, but how did the ones in the water, navigating around in the water, become birds? Did they come from them? Oh yeah. You know how? No. Because for millions of years, these fish were jumping out of the water higher and higher to catch these dragonflies and bugs and things that were flying around. And in doing so, they were moving their what do you call it, the fins? And those fins grew out and became wings, and eventually they just got bigger and bigger and flew out, and some of them even crawled out like alligator, the precursor to the alligators crawled out of the water so they could get some of those bugs too. You know what's wrong with that story? Where'd the bugs come from? Well, you don't understand. Now that, when I get to the part where somebody tells me I don't understand, that's when it becomes a challenge. Do we going to continue the conversation? Are we going to do that? Or are we going to just say, well, have a nice day, and move on? Because if you see that a person is really committed to that and they want to fight over it, okay, well, take your bugs and your amoeboid and have a nice day, okay? But if we want to have a discussion, let's look at it from a logical point of view. And now I want to talk about a person who was supposedly the best of the scientific minds in the recent century, who lived in a wheelchair. And he had to have a computer talking for him. Anybody know who I'm talking about? Stephen Hawking. Yeah. They asked him to give a speech, and the title of his speech is, "Where Did the Universe Come From?" That was the title of the speech. Where did everything come from? I didn't get to see the whole speech because my friend told me, just go to the end of it. Go to the end of it and see what happens. So I zipped through, and I see the lady walk out on the stage, take the microphone. That's why I tuned in. And she said, well, that's an excellent speech that you just gave, and now we come to the question and answer part, and I want to ask the first question. You told us about the blue-green algae. You told us about the amoeboids. You told us about the billions of years and the reptiles that came out of the water, and they became the reptiles on the land and became the flying. You told us so many things, how human beings came from the monkeys. But you didn't tell us where the universe actually came from. Where did it come from? That was her question. Now, after a few minutes, his computer, because it takes time, to, I guess, for him to program it, to talk, his computer's talking for him. I can't imitate that sound, and I won't try to do it. It sounds kind of weird anyhow. But in essence, it was saying that the universe can create itself wherever it wants to, whenever it wants to. Next question. Whoa. How many agree with that? Well, initially, anybody who's an atheist is almost like they're, a Muslim dedicated to Prophet Muhammad, right? Well, an atheist is dedicated to Stephen Hawking. that's his prophet, if you know what I mean. And now he's like, wait a minute, hold it, whoa, stop. Excuse me. He said the universe can do what it wants to do. You're implying intelligence, you're implying life, you're implying desire, and you're saying want. I mean, that's real clear. It can do what it wants to do. So basically, I get it. The universe itself is creating itself. Is that what you're saying? So it's an entity. It is the creator. So that means the universe to you is God. And you're not an atheist anymore. You're a Hindu. Or something like it. Because the Hindus actually, they believe in one God. You know that, right? But they have a lot of other gods to go along with that, so they can, pray through one God to hit another God, to kind of ricochet off of that and gets to some I don't know. I'm not really trying to make fun of anybody. I'm just saying, they got a bunch of gods. But they got a big God, which is the universe itself. And whenever you see a Hindu go like this to you, I ask them, why you do that? They said, I'm praying to the God in you. Whoa! I didn't even know I had that in me. Did you? Sound kind of like Superman, doesn't it? But seriously, when you think about it, it doesn't work, does it? You have to have an origin for everything. You cannot say something came out of nothing. Something came from nothing? How? It doesn't make any sense. So if there is something, I have the right to ask, where did it come from? So where did it come from? If it was always there, that's interesting. But we know that in the universe there is always a source where things came from and where they're going. And where we're going right now is to a break. And with that, we'll give everybody a chance to think about what we said. You at home, you're going to get to see something really cool, and we'll be right back right after this. So don't move. Stay there and stay guided with Guide Us TV.
Get connected with Guide Us TV. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/guideustv1. Join us on Google+, plus.google.com/+guideustv. Follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/guideustv1. Find us on Flickr, flickr.com/photos/guideustv. And add us on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/guideustv. Get guided with Guide Us TV.
And we're back. I told you we'd be right back. You see that? Uh-huh. We were talking about the subject of where everything came from. Now, I have another subject, is why is it that as far back as human beings are concerned, there have always been human beings who believed in some kind of a God? This is known from two things. The imagery that they came up with, they've depicted different kind of gods, and they depicted people worshiping gods. And the other one is languages, because every language, there's some languages that only have a few hundred words. How would you like to be married to a lady that only had a few hundred words? That'd be pretty cool, right? Wait, my wife might be watching. I better shut up. Anyway, so even in those kind of languages, they have a word for God. Every language have a word for God. So, how do you account for that? What is it that the human being needs to satisfy something inside of them that they have to have a word for a God? Up until the 1950s, we didn't ever have a word in English. For almost 1,000 years, we never had a word in English to describe something floating around the earth that was put into orbit. So whenever somebody else beat us to it, and the Russians did beat us to it, by the way, and they put it up there, they called it a Sputnik. And so at first we called the satellite a Sputnik, and then we decided, wait a minute, hold on, we need to get a satellite up there and call it by something, so we called it a satellite. Did you know that? Yeah. So you don't need a word for something that doesn't exist. Make sense? So why every language has a word for a God, a Dios, Allah, Illah, La ilaha illallah, no God except God. This is the Arabic expression. So how does that work? Now, in the real conversation, I'm not trying to debate with a person. I'm trying to get them on the same page, so to speak, so that we can have an agreement on some things. We can agree that everything must have come from somewhere, right? And if it came from somewhere, and we see intelligence, where does intelligence come from? Human beings, at least some of them, are intelligent, right? Now, I'm not talking about rush hour traffic. I know we can see a lot of dumb folks out there at that time, but still, intelligence, the ability to think and consider and to make choices. Now, in some cases, I want to go back to those amoeboids just for a minute. Some of those amoeboids, I don't know if they really have intelligence or not, or they're just hungry and they're eating that blue-green algae. I'm not sure. They get hungry, they eat. And there are some creatures, even like that today, that just eat. They eat, they go to the bathroom, that's it. That's their life. But look at a human being. Is there another creature on the planet that's really like a human being? Now right away, you're opening your door, so be ready for that when you say that. Yes, monkeys. Okay. That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. You know that Darwin's theory wasn't really about monkeys. It was about birds. Did you know that? Yeah, he was in the Galapagos Islands on the HMS Beagle. That was the name of the ship from England that they were on. And in the Galapagos Islands, he noticed that there was some birds called finches that had this long pointy nose, and they could get into certain areas and get the bugs out and eat them. But on another island where they didn't have those kind of bugs, they didn't have that kind of condition, some things were like more like fruit, soft fruit things. They had sort of a bent beak like the parrots. And then on another island, they had another kind of beak. So these were all finches. None of them were giraffes with a bird beak, all right? None of them were hippopotamus with wings. These were all finches with different kinds of beaks. But did you know that in 1998, on the Discovery Channel, I saw them talking about the effects of El Nino, the weather phenomenon that caused so much havoc with Central America, with the, different places like the northern part of South America and the Galapagos Islands, 350 miles off the coast of, what's it called? Colombia? Yeah, Colombia. So, and by the way, whenever I'm using words, you'll be surprised. You say, he knows that word. I do that so that people don't feel like I'm trying to intimidate them. You buy that? Yeah. Yeah. Now I can make all the mistakes I want, right? So the Galapagos Islands were affected by this in a very strange way. The ecological niche that had been there originally for these finch birds changed overnight practically. Within 6 weeks, these islands had changed from what they had had before to something new. And the commentator said, and I never forgot it, I almost jumped out of the chair when he said it. He said, look at this. When the birds' eggs hatched, the babies that came from the eggs, their beaks were the perfect form to accommodate their new environment. And then he went on to say, instead of the millions of years that Darwin supposed that it took for this generations of altercation or progression or evolution, it only happened in less than 6 months. And then he went on, and I was like, oh, hello. That's what he based his premise. It was all about this. That was what he based it on. Hello? Doesn't that mean that falls, I'm sorry, doesn't that mean that falls apart right there? Wow. But they never played that again. I never saw it again. I've never been able to get a copy of it or find it, but I heard from people who had been and visited the Galapagos Islands that was a true story. I haven't been there yet to back it up, but I'm pretty sure they didn't make that up for the Discovery Channel. But there's another point. Well, let's talk about the monkeys now. Because actually, when you're looking at an orangutan, you know which one is the orangutan? That's the real big one with the long hair, kind of looks like red hair on it, and he's got a blue face. And everybody know the orangutan? Yeah. Every once in a while, I don't want to say anything about any of my relatives, but there's one brother-in-law. Oh, well, now I'll leave that alone. So there might be some connection there, but let's take a look. If there's a connection between human beings and the animal kingdom, I'd like to know what it is. Wouldn't you? If there's a connection, let's examine this. Anybody here is a medical doctor? Please put up your hand. Any medical doctors? Okay. Anybody else? Medical doctors.
And let's start
Anybody working in the medical field? All right, cool. So when someone has a burn on their body, a severe burn, don't you take skin from another part of the body and try to cover it over? Is that true? Yeah, and maybe if somebody gets burned on their arm really bad, they'll take something off the leg and try to fix that up to replace the skin because you get burned off. Can you do that? Have you ever seen it? Did it work? Sometimes. Yeah. But what if it's so severe that the whole body has been affected here, and you've got big places here and there, and they don't have enough spare skin on that body? So do they go to the zoo and grab a gorilla and throw him down and rip his skin off? No. Maybe the orangutan, maybe a chimpanzee, maybe a squirrel monkey. Huh? No, I think, don't they go to the barn? Don't they go out to not to the zoo, they go to the barn out on the farm, right? And they get a pig. And don't they take the skin from the pig and put it on a human being? Have you ever heard of that? No? Check it out in the medical annals that you'll see that you'll find that they do that. How many of you heard of that before? Yeah. They use pig skin. Not the football. Pig skin on a human being. Whoa. Well, that's just one. Let's check out something else. Now, this is real serious because skin is one thing. You need skin. That's true. But if your heart's not working, then you don't need skin anymore, do you? So when somebody needs a heart valve, where do you get the heart valve from? In 1977, a very famous actor by the name of John Wayne had a serious heart condition. They had to replace his heart valve. And again, they didn't run down to the local zoo and grab a monkey. They went over to the barn, grabbed a pig, took the heart valve out of the pig and put it in the Duke. That was his nickname. And he survived for a few more years before the smoking gave him cancer and killed him. So, if you want to say that there is a common ancestor. This is one of the things that the atheists like to say today. Well, we don't say we came from pigs, we have a common ancestor. Have you heard that one? Yeah, okay, well, if you got a common ancestor, it might have been a pig. Otherwise, why is the DNA so close that we can use their body parts? Hello? Think about it. Now, it's interesting, there is a religion that talks about this. Really? Yes. And maybe, I'm just saying, based on what you're thinking, maybe you could find this religion suitable to you for what you're saying. Because there's a religion that says that God turned some people that were real corrupt in their worship into monkeys and pigs. Did you know that? There's a religion that says that. Actually, it's in the Quran, isn't it? So it must be Muslims. Would you like to know more about Islam? And right at that point, you either got somebody on the hook or you're never going to see him again. With that, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back right after this. Stay there and stay guided with Alhamdulillah, I love the way you say that.
Here are some ways to get Guidus TV. Via satellite on Galaxy 19 FTA. At this satellite frequency, transponder rate 5, frequency 11836 MHz, polarity vertical, symbol rate 20770, FEC 3/4, channel ID, Guide US TV. You can also download the app to your smartphone. Available for iPhones from the App Store, for Android on Google Play. And now Guidus TV is available on Roku. Get guided with Guidus TV.
You're watching Guidus TV. And I just had a medicine break. That was my medicine. I'm addicted to coffee, and I love it. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Now, we've been talking a little bit about atheists, but the same thing applies whenever we're talking with somebody of another faith. Suppose somebody is a Hindu, or a Buddhist, or a Christian. I definitely do not want people to leave their faith. I don't want them to leave that if their choice is just faith or no faith. Because when people believe in God or gods, at least they believe something. But a person who has no belief at all also can become very depressed and have no hope. And these people could commit suicide, or they could kill other people with no conscience because they don't really believe in anything. We're all here by accident, bunch of amoeboids that just got kind of blown out of shape, so who cares if we kill each other? That is the reality of what some people think today. It might be hard for us to get our mind wrapped around that kind of thinking, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. There are people that actually think there's no point, and just that the powerful should survive and the weak should be eliminated. This is pretty much what Hitler promoted, that the strength should be there. The powerful, the white guy with the blue eyes and blonde hair was the strong one and need to dominate. This was the sales pitch that they used. But what about the rest of us? Duh. Yeah. So I would like for us to keep in mind that although somebody doesn't believe exactly like we do, that at least they have a belief in something. Let me share with you a basic understanding of God for anybody. Means to have a faith in something you cannot see. One of the big things about an atheist, he said, why should I believe in something I can't see? Well, that's a good point. That's a good point. But just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. Is that true? Yes. Aren't there things that we cannot see, but they're still there? You have a microscope, then you can finally see them. But there are some other things that you can't see just because of what they're made out of, like jinn. True? Yes. They're there, but you don't see them. Like malaika, like the angels. You don't see them, but they're there. Yeah. And so we understand now that it's better to have belief than no belief. The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, our Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, he told us something that means similar to this. That in the last days, there's not going to be any more religions. There will only be belief and disbelief. Iman wa kufr. Iman is, it would translate to the Arabic language, when a person has iman, he's a mu'min. Mu'min. Iman, mu'min. And one who is covering the truth is a kafar. Kafir. Cover, kafir. Mean the same thing. So, in the last days, he ﷺ told us that the one who is a disbeliever would look at the believer and say, hello, mu'min. And the response, hello, kafir. And they're okay with that. So this is a prediction. And we believe that our Prophet ﷺ didn't make errors when it comes to these predictions and what he said. And for the benefit of some of our folks that are watching right now, they're not Muslim, and we have a lot of people around the world that watch us online, on social media, and a lot of people in the United States and Canada watching us on our satellite. I want to mention this, though, so that you can understand how important it is to tell them about a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. There's a famous hadith called the Hadith of Jibril. Gabriel, the angel, comes to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. and asks him certain questions. The last question he asked him, and this is the only focus that we've got right now, he asks him, when is the last day? Or actually, when is the hour, meaning the last day? And Prophet ﷺ said, you don't know and I don't know. I don't know, you don't know. The one being asked and the one asking, neither one of us know, but the signs. Look at this. The evidence, the signs are these. And he gave two very important signs. The first one he mentioned, when a slave gives birth to her master, and when you see the nomadic Arabs, this is the best way to translate Bedouin, the nomadic Arabs competing with each other to build the tallest buildings in the desert. Today, do we have any of these signs? Well, let's take that last one. For instance, I'm from Texas, and I remember back in the day when you could buy an acre of land for $5 in South Texas. Way back in the 40s and 50s, you could buy acres of lands in the southern part of Texas. Nobody wanted it. $5, $15, something like that, for an acre. But at least you could grow something on it, and at least your animals could eat something. But what about sand? Just piles of sand. No water, just sand. After sand dune, after sand dune, after sand dune. How much is that land worth?
Millions. Oil.
How much oil is underneath it? Well, we're not talking about what's under it. We're talking about what's on the surface, okay? So that land, if you're going to build a building, if you're going to put up a tent, why would you put a 2-story tent? You build up different levels because of expensive land, so you build on top of what you already have, because you don't have to buy the land again. Why would anybody build a 2-story house in the desert? Much less 3 stories, 4 stories, 20 stories, 50 stories, 175-story building. Why would anybody? There's the tallest building in the world today is not the Empire State Building in New York. And it's not the replacement of the Twin Towers. The tallest building in the world today is not the Twin Towers, the Petro Towers in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur. The tallest building in the world is in the desert. Yes or no? And it's not the only building there, is it? Tons and tons of buildings, all trying to be taller than each other. And after they built the Burj Khalifa, which is the Khalifa Towers translation, Walid bin Talal got permission from the kingdom, that's in Saudi Arabia, to compete with the Burj Khalifa to build a taller building, and they're building it right now outside of Jeddah. I saw it on their way to make Umrah just a few months ago. Oh! Now, there is a sign that nobody could have predicted 1,400 years ago. Is that true? Could you say lucky guess?
Yes.
Yeah? Could say that.
Yes, 100%.
Your lucky guess?
Not lucky, I know this.
Oh, you know he's right.
Before even the building.
Yeah, actually the people at home can't see or hear you, so we'll hold that until we're off the air, okay? But for sure, I want to wrap this up with something, the other part of it, giving birth to her master. Giving birth to her master. Today, in the same kingdoms that we were just talking about, there are women who don't want to lose their shape, get stretch marks, get stretched out and all that, so they let the scientists to take from them the eggs from inside of her, and mix it in a petri dish with the sperm of her husband, and then when it takes and they see it growing, they put it in the slave girl that works for them, and then she carries that baby, and when it's born, it's her master. How about that? That'll make you think. And while you're thinking, I want you to think about how you can share this message. Share what you're seeing right now. If you're online right now, share that message. Click it and share. And you can help us and get the reward for it. If you want to know more, just stay right where you are and stay guided with Guidance TV. I love the way they say that.
Get connected with Guide Us TV. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/guideustv1. Join us on Google+, plus.google.com/+guideustv. Follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/guideustv1. Find us on Flickr, flickr.com/photos/guideustv. And add us on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/guideustv. Get guided with Guide Us TV. Get connected with Guide Us TV. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/guideustv1.